Hey bro, so today I am going to talk about a topic that is very near and dear to myself because, to be honest, this is pretty much the reason as to why I started doing self improvement, or at least this is what pushed me towards my path of self improvement. Today we are going to talk about philosophy. We're going to talk about, in my opinion, the only practical and brilliant philosophy out there that you should know about. There are tons of practical and intelligent and great philosophies out there that all might be able to add value to your life, but trust me, this is the one that you definitely have to look into. I'm not joking, this will change your life. So, buckle up, we are going to talk about Stoicism. Now, Stoicism is undoubtedly one of the most influential schools of philosophy ever. Pretty much every important, wealthy, prosperous, powerful person that you know of or that you've heard of, they all have used Stoicism. Now, that doesn't mean that they all studied Stoicism. Of course, some of them just were natural Stoics. But a lot of them, a ton of them, just straight up studied the teaching of the Stoic philosophers of ancient times. And there's a reason as to why Stoicism correlates with greatness. Because Stoic minds tend to be able to weather all the storms of life and just push through and keep going relentless of whatever happens to you. So this is basically what Stoicism does to you. Now, maybe just for you to understand, I'm going to give you a quick explanation on how I stumbled into Stoicism. Back in school, I had Latin. I had to choose between, I had to learn Latin. I had to choose between two languages, French or Latin, and I decided to go for Latin. And whilst learning Latin, you are slowly but surely going to be introduced to classic Roman literature. And among these pieces of classic Roman literature that we had to read, that we had to translate, there was of course Caesar and everything, but there was one that really made a massive impact, or had a massive impact on myself. And that was reading texts of Seneca. Seneca is one of the most influential Stoic philosophers to ever live. The guy was a mentor of the Roman Emperor Nero. I know the story doesn't end well, but this is Nero's fault. It's not Seneca's fault. Actually, the first couple of years of Nero's reign were actually very promising. And the guy basically lived as a Stoic. And then there's also the Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius, which I'm not going to go very deep into, but the guy was one of the 5 good emperors of Rome. So if you want to read about some emperors of Rome, read about the 5 good emperors and read about Marcus Aurelius especially, because this guy deserves a lot of attention. He was basically a philosopher emperor who, guided by the principles of Stoicism, managed to rule the Roman Empire like no other before him and after him. So this guy was absolutely brilliant. But coming back to Seneca, we had to read and translate his texts, and this was the first time, and I still remember, that I really felt like, okay, I'm learning something here. Right? This was the first time where I realized, okay, I'm not just doing it in order to learn how to translate ancient Roman texts into German. This was the first time where I actually, after school, sat down and read the texts of this guy, because they just resonated with me. So I think that happened in like 8th or 9th grade. So yeah, it's quite some while now since I've first gotten introduced to Stoicism. But anyways, so this is how I got into contact with Stoicism, and it just stuck with me. It just stuck with me because it resonated so much that I thought, well, I mean, if we're learning how to translate his stuff, I might just as well read his stuff, because It really, really has a lot to offer. So if there's one Stoic guy that you want to read, definitely go for Seneca, but also consider Marcus Aurelius. I think Marcus Aurelius might be even more practical to read. Now, just in order for you guys to imagine what I'm talking about, what kind of guys we're talking about, I'm just going to give you 2 quotes of Seneca. The first one, you might have heard that. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. And the second one, it is not that we are given a short life, but we make it short. And we are not ill-supplied, but wasteful of it. And I think just from these 2 quotes, you can already get a hint of what Stoicism aims for, what Stoicism is all about. Now, again, Stoicism, after I got into contact with it, changed the entire trajectory of my life. It changed everything in the way I think. Basically, it helped me to switch from a victim mindset to a positive, realistic, and yet still very optimistic view of life and myself. And I'm incredibly grateful for having had the opportunity to go and read some of his texts, which of course are all online, right? You can read them all. So yeah, for me, definitely, if I had to choose one philosophy to follow for the rest of my life, it would without a doubt be Stoicism, because it's just fantastic. It's just incredible. So what does Stoicism teach us? Well, as you can imagine, I'm not going to be able to explain an entire school of philosophy that has built and grown over thousands of years. So we're just going to go into the very, very, very basics here. But these are also basically the things that I took away from it for myself. So there's so much more that Stoicism has to offer, but these are the things that we will now focus on. So the first thing that you have to understand is that Stoicism always reminds us of the fact that we are going to die. You and I will die. There's no doubt we will die one day, my friend. And Stoicism basically takes away the fear factor and just tells you, okay, look, just accept the fact that you'll die. Everyone is going to die at some day, so you might as well just use your life to the best, live it to the fullest, develop yourself to the fullest, and then help others to do the same. So this is basically the first core principle of Stoicism. You will die, so just let go of all fear, focus on growing yourself, do whatever you can do in order to help this world, to help other human beings, and develop yourself and grow to your fullest. Because if you don't do it, you are wasting the precious time that you have been given, that you have been granted on this planet. So you better use it, because again, you're going to die. Now, the second core teaching of Stoicism, I'm gonna have to explain that a bit. It's easy. Once you get it, you get it. But let me just think of a way how to put this easily. Stoicism divides everything into 2 spheres: the inner sphere and the outer sphere. Now, the inner sphere consists of things that you can control: your body, your mind, your emotions, your relationships to people, right? These are things that you either have full control over or a lot of control over. So these are the things of the inner sphere. And then there's the outer sphere: the weather, accidents, things what other people might do to you. In general, just things that you and I cannot control. So again, there are things that you can control and things that you cannot control. And what Stoicism basically tells you is just completely let go of the part that you cannot control, because you can't change it. You cannot control this part, so just forget about it. You can't do anything about that. It doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is what you can control. And again, what you can control is your inner sphere, your friends, your friendships to a certain extent, your family to a certain extent, and to a full extent, your body, your mind, and your emotions. And Stoicism basically makes these your core virtues, that you learn to control yourself, that you learn to harness your entire intuition, to make yourself strong, to build yourself to the best version that you could ever be. So in some sense, you could even go as far as to say that modern self-improvement is a child of Stoicism, because Stoicism in itself is self-improvement, just with an ancient touch. There are these two spheres, one you can't control, one you can control, and you should only focus on what you can control, because everything else doesn't really matter. You're gonna die anyways, so it just doesn't matter. Whatever happens outside, you can't change it. Focus on what you can control. And then, of course, the more you learn to control yourself, the more you learn to grow yourself, the more you learn to harness your strengths, the stronger you get, and the better your influence on the things that you can't directly control gets, and the stronger you can impose your will onto that, right? But only to a certain extent, because again, there are just things out there that you and I cannot control. And we are meant to let completely go of them, because they are just distractions. They are nothing else. They are only distractions. So this is basically what Stoicism tells you. You're going to die. You can only control a certain amount of things. Focus on that. Develop yourself on that. Get stronger. Be in control of yourself. And live your life to the fullest. And then the limited time that you have on earth, because you're going to die, the limited time that you have on earth will be used to its full potential. And you will only be able to use it to its full potential when you focus on what you can control. So, what will Stoicism do with you? Stoicism will make you strong. Not only physically, it will also make you mentally tough. Stoicism will make you achieve more than you ever did before, because you will learn to focus on what is in your control and what is not. Stoicism will teach you how to control your emotions. Stoicism will force you to grow. And in the end, Stoicism will just make you a Stoic. Because that's where the word literally comes from. If you are a Stoic, you know the teachings of Stoicism and you have implemented them. And you have complete control over yourself and a certain extent of control over everything else. Because you radiate that strength of self-control. So yeah, this is basically it, guys. I hope I was able to explain Stoicism to you. And before we wrap the video up, I'm not joking here. I really mean it when I say, if there is one philosophy that you should look into, it's Stoicism. So what I want you to do is, if you take this serious, if you take self-improvement serious, figure out how to learn something about Stoicism. And there really is no excuse. You can just Google Stoicism. Just Google it. And you will find hundreds of articles on it. You will find thousands of quotes about it. And of course, you will also find the real books of the Stoic authors. So if there is, I think my first recommendation to start reading about Stoicism is just the Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. The Meditations were not written by Marcus Aurelius, by the emperor, because he wanted them to be published. No, they were private accounts of himself where he basically journals and he reflects on himself and how he implements Stoic teachings and so on and so on. So if you want to get into Stoicism, and I highly recommend it, read the Meditations. Or there's another thing that you could do is just, I think there's a podcast about Stoics. Yeah, Daily Stoic, Daily Stoicism, Daily Stoic, something like that. Yeah, just Google it and have fun with that podcast. It's free. You can listen to it, I don't know, wherever. You can definitely look it up on YouTube. You can also 100%, if you have the podcast app, you can just find it there. Daily Stoic, I think, is the name. And these guys are brilliant. These guys are amazing. They basically just every day talk about some Stoic teaching and how we can implement them in our life. So yeah, let's wrap it up here, guys. I again hope I was able to bring this philosophy closer to you guys. You should seriously consider looking into it. That's it from me. Have a great time, guys. Love you all to pieces. Bye.
Mwah.